Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Ukradowski of WeAreChange.org, and there is a lot of strange, bizarre news coming in today. Not just of this cyborg-like creature that is one of the most powerful men in the world, or this lead candidate to be the vice president on the Democratic ticket. You would think that the shape-shifting has already begun with how insane 2020 has been, but in this video we specifically want to focus on the bombshell news of the horrible attack that just took place on the judge that just a few days ago was assigned to a very important case involving what many people believe to be a government agent, Jeffrey Epstein, and one of the world's most powerful financial institutions. And while presiding over this very important case, her and her family were viciously attacked. There's a lot of strange details happening here. We're going to go over all the latest developments, as well as all the latest breaking news coming in right now. All of that, plus more, on this independent media organization that has been talking about Jeffrey Epstein and exposing him for years, while, of course, the mainstream media was promoting him and his sinister criminal trafficking operation. And this is one of the reasons why we are 100% demonetized, heavily censored, and shadow banned on this platform, and rely on your support to continue this operation. And one very easy way to support us is by checking out our merchandise. And we just got great new shirts in right now. We just, of course, released the Karl Marx one, and we have a brand spanking new one that is, of course, of George Orwell. We already have a bunch of different Orwell stuff, and his books are definitely becoming more prophetic than ever, especially with the demise of our society. I even have one on right now that says Make Orwell Fiction Again, which you can get at the store and support this independent media organization at the same time. This is a great way to get the message out, especially since, of course, a lot of this messaging is being censored, but if you wear one of our shirts, well, they can't censor you yet. We also have a second store with more controversial gear. Both of those links will be down in the description below, so you could check them out yourselves. Now, just jumping right into this case, I have to remind everyone that, again, we have to understand that the mainstream media hasn't been reporting the truth surrounding this very important case for a very long time. Still, when you Google Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein, you have these known criminals being labeled as a, quote, American financer. And again, that's not the case at all. A lot of money from Jeffrey Epstein literally came out of thin air. No one could track it down. There's no accountability or record for where it came from. But because the mainstream media wrote puff pieces about Jeffrey Epstein being a great financer and entrepreneur, this is why Google still labels him as an American financer. We also have Ghislaine Maxwell, who's labeled as a socialite. She wasn't. She was a criminal trafficker and groomer of underage children that were used and abused by some of the most powerful people in this world with impunity for over 3 decades. Meanwhile, this very independent news organization that you're watching right now gets attacked for exposing a lot of these facts. And that's why it's important to question everything that we're being told right now, especially from the authorities that were complicit in this entire saga. But as we know, we got some bombshell recent developments with the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell that now is in a federal penitentiary. And according to many of the witnesses and victims, she knows a lot of things that implicate a lot of very powerful people. And as you know, just a few days ago, we were reporting on the slap on the wrist that the major financial institution, Deutsche Bank, got after it was fined by the New York Department of Financial Services for $150 million. Again, a drop in the bucket for this organization that, according to the authorities, was aiding and abetting Jeffrey Epstein while completely not following basic standard protocols, as he was able to do whatever he wanted without facing any of the checks and balances and regulations that normal people would. All of this as, of course, he was a convicted criminal an abuser of children, and there has been ongoing litigation in this particular matter that just last Thursday, Judge Salas was assigned to be the judge on specifically related to this case, as a lawsuit was brought on by investors against Deutsche Bank and its CEO over, of course, its very close and cozy relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this was just filed on July 15th in Newark, New Jersey, and the hearing could have some legitimate, huge ramifications, as of course it could potentially answer where a lot of the Jeffrey Epstein mystery money came from. And we're not talking about just $1 million or $2 million. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that Jeffrey Epstein got out of thin air, was able to wheel and deal with it with no oversight, no accountability, and was doing egregious things like literally paying off the college tuition of some of his victims. You would think that would raise a red flag, especially for a convicted child abuser, but it did not. And there were many warnings that Deutsche Bank decided to ignore. According to the federal court documents that were filed in this particular case, Deutsche Bank, quote, failed to properly monitor customers that the bank itself deemed to be high risk, including, among others, Jeffrey Epstein. With this court proceeding moving forward, there could be opening up of evidence and some of the records that could shed light on where Jeffrey Epstein got most of his money. Now, some people say that Deutsche Bank looked the other way when it came to Jeffrey Epstein because they were focusing on, quote, potential revenue that Epstein might generate for them. But either way, whether it's government agencies secretly wiring Jeffrey Epstein the money or the bank just being the typical greedy banksters that they are, still, this is immoral. This is wrong. Again, how involved the big financial institutions are, well, we have to question everything, especially the fact that it was this mystery money that allowed him to conduct these criminal extortion operations on many powerful people. And there are also many other strange incidences like this one where Jeffrey Epstein's money mysteriously came back alive after his death and moved around millions of dollars from his estate. Something that should be only possible if Jeffrey Epstein was alive. And this should, of course, make us question the official version of events that don't make sense from the U.S. government about this particular case. But sticking on the subject here, obviously, a lot of major implications. And now, just moments ago, the judge proceeding over the Jeffrey Epstein-Deutsche Bank case, according to authorities, had a hitman show up at her door dressed up as a delivery driver and open fire, killing the judge's only son and heavily wounding her husband. Almost a scene that could be out of a movie, and rightfully so. There's a lot of people's eyebrows and ears raised around this particular case, and there's reason for that. Now, of course, there's going to be some people and authorities talking about this case potentially being linked to other events, to other people, that this might be totally unrelated to this Deutsche Bank Jeffrey Epstein case, and they could be right. We still don't know a lot of the details because, again, federal authorities are being very tight-lipped. The latest developments that I just looked at is that they were looking for one suspect, but they didn't say anything else except for looking for one suspect. They didn't mention height, weight, skin color, no description at all, and they're holding a lot of information to themselves. Now, another important aspect to understand here is that according to some reports, the family didn't face any threats at all at this particular time. The neighbors next to this family say that there was no reason why this should have happened. And with this case being in the hands of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, we should be skeptical, as of course they're being very tight-lipped. Now we're getting some reports that haven't been corroborated that this assassin hitman, quote, committed suicide, as some reports are coming from the, quote, authorities. And if this report is true, and if this hitman did commit suicide, the story will, of course, end with him. The book will be closed, and a lot of questions will be left unanswered. Now, the reports that we're getting in right now as the making of this video, the suspect remains unidentified. Nothing has been verified, but of course anything is possible in this case since, of course, the mind-boggling, unbelievable story of what happened to Jeffrey Epstein when he was in jail. Again, when you look at the details of the, quote, cameras malfunctioning, evidence being destroyed, guards falling asleep, basic protocols not followed, I could keep going on and on about all the things that suspiciously, quote, went wrong with the death of Jeffrey Epstein. But of course, right before his trial, there would be an investigation into the evidence. He would speak out against many powerful people that he was involved in, and this is why many people believe that, of course, he was taken out. Now, Ghislaine Maxwell believes the same thing, and that, quote, Jeffrey Epstein was taken out because he would expose very powerful people in our society. This is according to a, quote, family friend that spoke to The Sun. And now, according to this same source, Ghislaine Maxwell fears that she will meet the same fate as her counterpart, Jeffrey Epstein, as, quote, she fears that she will be as well taken out. Now, I would say that this definitely is a legitimate fear. We definitely have still a year to go until the trial begins of Ghislaine Maxwell. She is in a very corrupt prison that some people describe just as, quote, Guantanamo Bay, where the lights are on, noise is constant, and there is always interruption of sleep. The jail that she is housed in is also known for abusing its prisoners and committing unspeakable acts that we can't even mention here on YouTube. But with the jail that's known for corruption, an entire year to still go, I actually agree with Ghislaine and do believe that she is in danger. Again, lots of powerful people implicated here, not just Prince Andrew, by the way, that was left out of all the wedding photos of his daughter's latest wedding that the British tabloid media was going bonkers over. You know, Prince Andrew, that according to many witnesses, many victims, committed unspeakable acts with children, that there's plenty evidence of, which, of course, he has still never faced any real ramifications because of. And I'm sorry, but that's a travesty in itself. And whether he's in the wedding photos or not shouldn't matter. What should matter is that there should be more public scrutiny, not just against Prince Andrew, but all the politicians involved here, especially on the federal authorities, with the people's demand for accountability and transparency surrounding this case. We need it more than ever, since, of course, the Federal Bureau of Investigations is a political organization that has used extortion before in its history to gain power in our modern political system. It's pretty much how the FBI got its start with J. Edgar Hoover, and we also still have to understand that they have in their possessions the Jeffrey Epstein's photos and other evidence of his surveillance operation that he was running on the very powerful people that he was hanging out with. Again, lots of little details to unfold here. I hope I made sense of it somehow for you. Again, when you look at mainline society, it is far more corrupt and twisted than the mainstream media will ever tell you. I mean, these traffickers and abusers of children were literally connected to organizations whose job it was to prevent cruelty against children. Again, a lot of people involved here deserve public scrutiny, deserve to be judged in the court of public opinion until we get more actual answers to what actually happened. This includes people like Bill Gates and many others who, of course, are closely tied into this, some would say, satanic, evil ring of the establishment. Again, absolutely horrifying to what happened to this judge. We can only hope that she gets justice in this particular case, and still, that wouldn't be enough for the tragedy that she faced. Again, your voice matters, our attention matters, and if we're able to galvanize enough noise, it could make a difference. Already, there's been substantial change that I never thought was possible, and I think it's only possible because of you. So again, I thank you sincerely so much for sharing this video, getting it out there, and sharing important information that, of course, you can't get anywhere else. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.